Throughout the day we were aware that something dangerous and frightening was about to happen. Tensions mounted, and my mother came in looking pale. "I've just seen a big heavy cockroach out in the yard. I couldn't bring myself to stand on it. There's death on the way, surely." The priests had already given out black-edged slips of paper to the adults, who then wrote on them the names of the dead and sent them back sealed in envelopes. My father became mysterious every year at this time. Once, before I'd learnt better, I tried to peer over his shoulder as he wrote. He covered the paper with his arm and looked around panic-stricken. He dreaded being discovered, and he called for my mother to take me away. "Don't ever disturb your father when he's filling out his mass card." She too would busy herself in the kitchen until he'd finished. None of us were to see the names of his past. My mother had to practice writing before she filled hers in. She would take down the jam jar of dried-up barrows and sort through them until she found the one that still worked. Laboriously she spelt out the names, moving her lips as she wrote each one 3 or 4 times. The names of her parents, her brothers, her sister, her half-sister, cousins, aunts, great-aunts and uncles, a school friend and the most recent of the neighbours. An endless list of names spun round in shaky blue clotted handwriting as the pen seized up and spluttered. The empty mass card stared from the fireplace. She only had one chance on that. When she was ready she would take it down, dreading making a mistake. She twitched the pen in the air over the paper, hesitating before bringing it down into contact. "Joseph Moran," she started. The pen clotted on the last N of Moran. It was the eve of November, the month of the dead. Although we knew that the assessment of souls in purgatory was not due until 2 days later, when on All Saints we would pray for plenary indulgences, we knew that on the eve of November, as the sun set, hordes of spirits would try to reach the kingdom of God without success. They began their upward journey impatiently, choosing not to wait and find out who amongst them has been granted remission. Evil roamed at the crossing of this month into the next. We could feel it. The angry dead revisited us, annoyed at being neglected all year. This was their time for remembrance, and they presented themselves lively and real. Everyone grew thoughtful and particularly careful of what they said in case their ancestors heard. Around this time my mother dreamt that members of her family presented themselves petitioning for help. I made constant streams of Hail Marys and Our Fathers in my head, wanting to achieve some sort of a record. The endless repetition of sounds blocked out the fear of spirits lurking. "I saw your Uncle Gerald last night," she'd say, and the threads of sound were offered up for Uncle Gerald. Or, "I saw our Arthur," and like weathercocks being blown in the wind, we focused our intentions on Arthur, moving from one supplicant to another, as directed. Occasionally the dreams frightened my mother, but those that she worried about most were the ones that she could not understand. Like the big spider becoming engorged and swollen on the whitewashed wall outside. It grew and grew until it became a gaping dark hole, its legs dissolving into cracks in the brick, and she stepped through, unable to stop herself. We paid much heed to Mother's dreams, all of us attempting some interpretation. We listened in rapt silence while she recounted what she'd seen. "There was someone in our kitchen," she began, "last night. The house was quiet, but I wasn't scared. I went out there and turned on the light, but I saw no one. Then I heard noises, sort of grunting it was, muffled. Someone trying to talk as if they had a gag in their mouth. I looked around, but I saw no one. Just as I was coming out, something crashed down, a cup or a plate. I don't remember." Our eyes grew large in wonderment. "Go and see Father Gochan," Father told her, not waiting for her to repeat the dream twice. "Describe it all to him and ask what he thinks. He can offer a mass for whoever it is." "Eternal light give unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them," we chanted. Father Gochan tried to reassure us. The only people that can harm you are living. You need have no fear of those that aren't. But I was weighed down with spectres. I prayed that my departed family had already entered heaven. The dead had no way of helping themselves. Only our intervention had the power to alter things. One indulgence granted could make all the difference between life in light or life in darkness. The responsibility was enormous. Those who did not get through would have to wait a whole year to try again. On All Hallows Eve, Mother went slowly round the house. She checked that the front door was firmly closed. Then she went from room to room, sealing up all the windows with rags. No one could slip in. The doors to all the rooms were kept shut, as if to stop a fire spreading. We all carried rosary beads around our necks, tucked under our vests, and Mother took the small statue of St. Anthony out of her handbag where it was usually kept, and placed it in her apron pocket to keep it on her person. A tiny silver statue, no bigger than an inch, it nestled in a small metallic container that covered the image of the saint like the shell on a snail. If we were confronted by a wandering phantom, she told us to make the sign of the cross. That and the rosary beads would protect us. "They don't come to get us, for God's sake, Nell," Father protested at the preparations. "Just remember to pray for them. Sure, that's all they're interested in." We lit candles. "Oh, well, it'll put us in the mood for tonight," he joked, wanting to disperse our fears. "Candle flames will protect you," Mother had said, as she bought up 24 from the chandlers. "I'll take these up and have Father Gochan bless them in time for Halloween." Every Sunday, at the close of Mass, we each lit one. Mother said they would protect us throughout the week. We knew from somewhere that evil spirits were terrified of candles and would seldom venture indoors where there were some. We played games and told stories to divert our attention. As the sun set, we would gather round the fire for safety, huddling together, telling television ghost stories to take our minds off the real dead who were clamouring at our elbows. The aunt who lived alone always stayed with us on that night and would not return to her own home until daylight had exorcised the spirits from her cold kitchen. Great Aunt Florence would choose that night above all others to be extra communicative to her lost ones. All Hallows was a very great strain on her, as one child after another struggled to get her attention. She had so many people to see, despite keeping up a constant dialogue with her dead throughout the year. All Hallows was a time of extra effort. Her knuckles stood out in her coarse red hands. The blue veins were knotted across the backs, as she stared straight ahead, mouthing prayers silently. Her eyes became bloodshot from concentration, and her breathing came faster and faster. She began to rock back and forth, hugging her shoulders. "Florrie's off again," Mother said, cocking her head in her direction, and my father shrugged. "May as well leave her." For wasn't this the one night we would have loved to be able to join her in the strange world she inhabited all year? We admired her ability to deal with the spirit world in such matter-of-fact terms. She sat up with a jerk. Her eye was clear and visionary. She had recognized someone. Often a great smile of relief spread over her face. The journey had been successful. "All I said was that we'll be going heathen and eating meat on Fridays at those prices," she said, angrily wagging a finger. "I never said you gave short measure." Her relief soon passed into annoyance as she continued an ancient argument with the fishmonger. "Ach, you're too expensive by half. That's why I took my custom up the road to the new feller. Nice shop he has. Little fishes swimming in a glass tank and everything laid out on ice, not buzzing with flies like yours. Well, I'm sorry if it has upset her, but you tell your wife, she'll understand. It's nothing personal. She's a housewife like myself. With all those children, 7, 8 is it? How many? Oh, God, I've had 12, 13 maybe, all eating fish they were. Grown up now, some of them." "Joey." Her eyes peered into the distance. "Joey, is it you? My little one, you'll not forget your old mother." and her hand patted the air around her, stroked her child's head as she rocked him on her knees, crooning, "Joseph, Joseph, you're back! My little boy, my dear one! Niall!" she shrieked excitedly. "Look at him sleeping!" And with one arm she scooped up the tiny baby. "Ach, you'll no grow any bigger," she said, the tears beginning to pour down her face. "You'll always stay my baby." I imagined that I could see, one after the other, a procession of her pale children as they rose wraith-like from the ashes to hold their mother's hand and comfort her. Florrie sat quietly with a beatific smile on her face and her eyes misty. "Here, see if she'll drink a cup of tea," said Mother, passing a cup and saucer. "Florrie? Florrie, are you all right?" "Here's a cup of tea." "Will you take some tea?" Father repeated it, seeing he was getting little response. "Who are you?" she said, looking at him strangely. "Where are you from?" She took the tea he offered and sipped it slowly, trying to remember if she knew him from somewhere. "Tell me," she said, trying to work out by elimination who he was. "Did I put your name down on me mass card?" That night we even took nightlights to our beds, so no spirits would disturb our sleep. Outside, the night sky was thick and teeming as the rejected swarmed into it. The wind carried their voices, panes of glass rattled in every window. The underworld was massing. From sepulchres and shallow graves they came, from unmarked, unknown places, crawling from under flagstones, bent double from tunnel graves. They flocked from cairns, barrows and pits. They came from chapels and vaults, from family graves with well-incised tombstones, their history laid out chronologically. Who was the daughter of the son of the first to be buried, their names becoming obscured by the soft mossy growth. Suicides lay in unsanctified ground, away from the light. Their act of self-destruction, the gravest sin, denied them rightful burial. I thought about them, those friendless spirits that no one could help to push upwards, for whom no prayers counted. They were the real outcasts, forgotten, even in death. That night, everything was on the move. The clouds drifted, and even the stillness of my room was disturbed. The wallpaper shifted as I stared, rearranging the floral pattern into ethereal wreaths. Semi-human faces peeped out from behind foliage, half-animal, wild spirits. I shut my eyes quickly to shut out the dead, but that night my dreams were heavy with black-craped mourners and the all-pervading smell of damp and rotting leaves. All Saints' Day dawned calmly with a still November sky. We celebrated those in heaven and felt as if a great burden had been taken from us. It was with a sense of relief that we prayed for those still in purgatory the following day, for we no longer carried on our shoulders the weight of the entire other world. It would be a year before we had anything to fear from wayward spirits, a year before those feelings buried deep within us would stir again, remnants from our dark and savage past, feelings which the Catholic Church could not sanctify or explain away.
Sylvestra Le Touzel was reading All Hallows by McCrory. The producer was Sally Avens.